Because of what's not, there's one feature that was confirmed by multiple supply chain sources, production already underway, and Apple quietly kept it for the Pro Max only. If you've been planning to buy the smaller Pro, this changes the math. 1 month out from launch, the lineup that seemed straightforward isn't anymore. We'll get to exactly what that feature is, why it matters for your photos, and whether the 18 Pro is still worth buying, and or if the Pro Max just became the only real choice. 6 features are coming to the 18 Pro. One of them might not be. Here's where we are. iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max launch next month. 6 features are confirmed or heavily rumored, and most of them are genuinely good news. But there's a camera exclusive that was not part of the original plan, and it changes how you should think about this whole lineup. I want to walk you through all 6 features first, because context matters here. Then we'll get to the controversy, and by the end of this, you'll know exactly which model makes sense for you and who should wait entirely. Let's start with the design. 3 changes are coming, and they're subtle, but they're the right kind of subtle. First, the dynamic island is shrinking. Apple has moved Face ID components under the display, which means the pill-shaped cutout at the top gets noticeably smaller. It's the smallest display interruption on an iPhone in years. Not a revolution, but it's the direction, and this is a real step forward. Second, the back of the phone is getting a unified look. If you remember the iPhone 17 Pro's two-tone rear design, some people loved it. Yeah, a lot of people really didn't. Apple appears to have heard them. The aluminum frame and glass back are being blended for a cleaner, more consistent finish, which honestly just looks more premium. The two-tone thing always felt like a manufacturing decision someone tried to make into a design decision. Third, colors. Cosmic orange is being retired. Replacing it is a dark cherry or burgundy shade, depending on which leak you trust. And I'll be honest, that sounds significantly better. Cosmic orange was bold. Dark cherry is the kind of color that photographs well and doesn't make you feel like you ordered the wrong thing 6 months later. Now, the chip. And this is not a typical generational bump. The A20 Pro is Apple's first chip built on a 2-nanometer process. For context, the A19 Pro that's in this year's phones is 3 nanometer. Moving to 2 nanometer is a meaningful manufacturing jump, and Apple is pairing it with something called WMCM packaging, wafer level multi-chip module, which changes how the components are physically assembled on the chip itself. What does that actually mean for you? More performance per watt, which means faster when you need it and more efficient when you don't. On-device AI gets stronger. Everything from photo processing to real-time translation runs locally, faster. Battery life improves from the chip side alone before you even factor in the bigger battery. The A19 Pro was already overkill for most people. The A20 Pro is going to be even more overkill, but overkill in this direction means the phone ages better. 3 years from now, you're still not the bottleneck. Camera control is getting a redesign, and I think this is actually the right call. When it launched on the iPhone 16, the concept was solid. A dedicated hardware button for the camera with touch-sensitive gestures for adjusting zoom, exposure, tone. In practice, finicky. The touch-sensitive surface was easy to trigger by accident. The gestures were just complicated enough to feel like homework, and most people ended up using it as a shutter button and nothing else, which, for a feature Apple put on the side of their flagship phone, is not a great outcome. iPhone 18 removes the touch-sensitive components entirely. Simpler, more reliable. Just a button that does what a button is supposed to do. It's not a headline feature, but it's the kind of fix that makes the phone better to use every single day. And that's worth something. 2 more things, and they work together. Apple's C2 modem is coming to the iPhone 18 Pro. After years of using Qualcomm, Apple started rolling out its own cellular modems this year. C1 in the iPhone 16e, C1X in the iPhone Air. C2 is the next generation, and it's built for the Pro lineup. Apple's in-house modems have already proven themselves better efficiency than Qualcomm's solutions, lower power draw, more battery life without adding a single milliamp hour to the cells. Speaking of cells, the iPhone 18 Pro Max is getting a battery roughly 10% larger than its predecessor. Stack that with the A20 Pro's 2 nanometer efficiency gains and the C2 modem's lower power consumption, and you're looking at battery life that's going to be the best any iPhone has ever shipped with. If you know someone who complains their iPhone doesn't make it through the day, the 18 Pro Max is going to be a different conversation. Okay, this is what I mentioned at the top, and it matters more than any other feature on this list. Variable aperture. If you're not familiar, most smartphone cameras and every iPhone to date have a fixed aperture. The hole through which light reaches the sensor never changes. Variable aperture means you can physically control that opening. Narrow it for bright daylight. You get sharper detail everywhere in the frame, better control over depth of field. Widen it in low light, more light hits the sensor, more detail in the shadows, less noise. It's the single biggest remaining gap between iPhone photography and shooting on a dedicated camera, and Apple was confirmed to be working on it. Multiple supply chain sources, production reportedly underway, expected in both the 18 Pro and the Pro Max. That story has changed. Ice Universe, a leaker with a genuinely solid track record, particularly on Apple supply chain intel, is now saying variable aperture will be exclusive to the iPhone 18 Pro Max. The reason isn't complicated. The variable aperture mechanism is physically larger than a fixed one. It needs more internal space. The Pro Max's bigger chassis, which also needs to house the larger battery, apparently has enough room. The iPhone 18 Pro doesn't. There's a precedent worth knowing here. The iPhone 15 Pro Max launched with Apple's tetraprism system, 5 times optical zoom. The iPhone 15 Pro had 3 times. 1 year later, the iPhone 16 Pro got the tetraprism. History suggests the iPhone 19 Pro gets variable aperture. But that doesn't help you if you're buying this September. And there's more. Some leaks are also suggesting the wider aperture telephoto lens, which improves low light zoom performance, may also be exclusive to the Pro Max this year. That's 2 camera upgrades that could be unavailable on the smaller Pro. Here's what I'll say plainly. If you care about photography and you're buying an iPhone specifically because of what it can do with a camera, the iPhone 18 Pro Max is the only Pro in this lineup that earns that description fully. The iPhone 18 Pro is a good phone, but its camera story is thinner than what Apple originally planned. So who should buy what? iPhone 18 Pro Max if photography is part of why you're buying this phone. Variable aperture, the improved telephoto, the bigger battery, the full story Apple has been building toward since the 17 Pro redesign. This is the one. Not a close call. iPhone 18 Pro, if the size genuinely matters to you and you're making peace with getting the camera features a generation later, the A20 Pro chip alone makes it significantly faster and more efficient than the 17 Pro. The design is cleaner. Camera control is finally fixed. The C2 modem improves battery. It's a real upgrade. Just don't buy it thinking you're getting the complete camera upgrade story, because you're not. And if you're currently on an iPhone 16 Pro, wait, not because the 18 Pro is bad, but because if the tetraprism pattern holds, the 19 Pro cycle is when the smaller model might finally get everything. Apple's plan for this iPhone era launched with the 17 Pro. The variable aperture exclusive is a sign that plan is getting complicated. The foldable iPhone Ultra is also launching alongside the 18 Pro Max this cycle. Splitting attention, splitting resources, splitting the engineering story. It's a lot happening at once. I'll be testing both Pro models the moment I can get them. And if anything I just told you changes after hands-on time, you'll hear about it here first. One question before you go. Are you a Pro or a Pro Max buyer? And does the camera exclusive change that? Tell me in the comments.